Welcome to Virtualize Everything. Tonight's episode is going to take you through a video tutorial process that we haven't done in quite a long time. I'm going to demonstrate the easy setup and configuration of a Turnkey Linux LXC for the process of getting your own NextCloud server set up and running. Now, if you've read some of the documentation in other places on setting up a NextCloud server, you'll know that it is fairly simple, but also complex and difficult if you're new to setting up different web interfaces or web software. So, Turnkey Linux makes a distribution or a Linux container that is super simple and easy for us to do just this with a minimal amount of configuration. But there are some sticking points here in 2021 that differs from some of the other documentation and can make it rather complicated or can make a person that is trying to set up one of these containers not successful. So now let's start the process of setting up our own NextCloud server. The first step we need to take to set up our own NextCloud server is to open the shell for our Proxmox web interface. Now that we have the shell open for our Proxmox server, we can update our LXC repository list using the command pveam update. Then we can display the available list of containers so that we can choose the one we want. We can do this with pveam available. Here's a list of all of the different available containers that we can choose from. Now, we're going to enter the command pveam download, then the location that we want to download to. In my case, it's going to be local. This is wherever you store your image files. The default store location for your server is going to be local. Then we're going to scroll through this list, identify the image name for NextCloud, right here in my case. Now, if you're doing this a few months in the future, you may find the name is different. That is okay. We're going to go ahead and copy this and add this to the end of the command that we've already entered. When we press enter, it will download the image. In my case, the image has already been downloaded, so it doesn't go through the download process. But this is what it'll do when you're finished, is return you back to the root at your server's name command, and our image is downloaded. If we go over here to local and look at our container templates, you can see that it is indeed downloaded and ready to be used. Now we can start the process of setting up our container. Click Create Container, give your container a name, enter a password, press Next, select our image, Next, select where we want our storage to be. Now I don't intend on using this NextCloud install, so I'm just going to leave it at 8 gigs. But I would highly suggest, if you intend on using your NextCloud install, that you give it more storage. Now, from using my NextCloud configuration here, although the minimum requirements say I only need 1 core, I would heavily suggest having 2. As well as the minimum requirements specify 128 megs of RAM and recommend just 256. But I found that I had much greater performance and usability somewhere around 2 gigs. So my suggestion would be that you use at least 2 gigs of RAM for your container. You want to set your network configuration to something that is static because you don't want your server constantly changing. Adding a -24 to designate the subnet mask at the end. If your subnet mask is different, you may have to enter a different number. But for most cases, most people's network will be -24. Then we need to enter our default gateway. In most home networks, that is going to be the IP address of your all-in-one router. And now we can click Finished and our container will be made. Now the installation process for setting up our NextCloud server isn't complete at this point. Now that we see Task OK, we can go ahead and exit this screen. And our container has necessarily been made, but NextCloud hasn't been configured, set up, and can't be used. But let's go ahead, select our container by clicking on it, press Start, and then load our console. After this container has booted up, we will be presented with a screen to log in. We can log in using root and the password we set up before. Turnkey LXC is going to present us with a series of questions for configuring our NextCloud install. The first question is asking us to set a password for the MySQL database. Make sure you follow the rules listed on the screen so that you're successful in creating this password. And press Enter. Now you need to confirm the password by entering it again. And press Enter. Now it's time to set up your admin account password. Press Enter and enter it again. Take note that the username for your admin account is going to be admin. Now enter the default domain for your NextCloud server. I would suggest at this point entering the IP address that you configured for your server and hitting Enter. Now we're not using an API key for Turnkey backup, so we can press Tab and Enter. We don't want to give them an email address. You can if you would like. So I'm just going to hit Tab to select Skip and press Enter again. Now we can install by pressing Enter. This is going to install security updates. Now we're presented with the different administrator addresses. Take note of this one. This is the one we'll be using. If everything goes all right, we should just be able to log in. Let's give it a try. Here is your NextCloud install, all set up and running. Now, I do want to show you this process and this file path because it differed from my documentation, and you may find you made a mistake and are unable to log in to your NextCloud install using the IP address of your server. If we go to Advanced menu, and we'll go down here and Quit, and press Enter, we return back to our command shell. Now, I'm just going to clear the screen, and we can go ahead and go to CD, run an ls because I forget the file structure. I'm sorry. So, if you were following along, the exact file structure is going to be var/www/nextcloud/config, and we're going to now open the config.php file using nano. And you're presented with this file here. Now, if you have a different domain that you're using to access your NextCloud, or you need to enter the IP address in because you made a mistake during the installation process, we can do so by entering it here to remove our error message. Just like so. Now, obviously, this won't work because it doesn't point at our server, but it'll demonstrate what you need to format your file to look like. Mine's here, so we're good to go. So I'm just going to hit Control X and no because I don't want to save. For you, you'll have to save that file in case you have this problem, as I did with my first NextCloud install. I hope you enjoyed tonight's video, found this video beneficial on how to easily set up a NextCloud server for use with your friends, yourself, or just for backups using your Proxmox Home Lab server. Please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to this video to help Virtualize Everything on their endeavor to bring high-quality tutorials to you, the viewer, on using different virtualization technologies, as well as virtualizing different software like NextCloud. As always, have a good night.